Okay, hello everyone, welcome to Raw Wednesday yet again. This week we are looking at panoramas, and I went up Talk Mountain and I had a not so fun time going to the top because I was running late and I was really pushing myself, and but I got to the top and took some lovely pictures which we're going to look through shortly. And yeah, it's just one of those days where it doesn't quite work out how you'd like it to, but really when you look back in hindsight you think, actually I had a good morning, you know, and hopefully you enjoyed the video as well that came out Monday. So there's no point looking at the challenges for one of the previous challenges. We should be on foregrounds this week, looking at who's entered in to that, but no one's entered, so there's no point no point even trying, is there? So, but you know, we're early in this and it's nice that even people have entered already on previous rounds and one's going forward. If you have done so, amazing, thank you. So let's move on. We're looking at panoramas. We're looking at the raw images from at the top of Talk Mountains, and now I did two panoramas. Let's look at the first one here. We can see I shot ISO 50, 1/30th of a second, f11. Just look at the histogram. It's nicely sitting all within the whole dynamic range of the histogram, and shot at 100mm as well. And I had it on the tripod in one position and I took multiple shots, as we see as I cycle through them, and they're all slightly overlapping and coming around to there. So that was the first one I did, and the second one, this is where we had some really big dynamic range. Actually, we might be able to get away with not having to do any HDR, but I did take three images, one overexposed, one normal exposure, and one stop down. So that would be normal, stop down, and then a stop above, and then done that multiple times as I've taken it round and ending up over here. Now the reason I did the HDR is because when we get to, say, this one here, can you see how that is just, the highlights are just completely blown out. No matter how much I bring it down, there is zero information there. So where's the one? Hopefully there should be enough. There's a decent amount. I mean, it's going to clip anyway. You're looking at the brightest object that you could ever look at, the sun, so you're not going to have an amazing amount of detail. But if we bring it up, you know, we're still salvaging quite a bit of information there. So we will look at that in a second and how we will deal with that. I'm rushing a little bit because I don't want to take up too much of people's time. I want to try and keep these within half an hour, 45 minutes max, because they can be a bit boring. But here we go, here's our first one, and what I'm going to do is just zoom in. Got a nice amount of detail, some beautiful side light, and we're going to stitch these together using Photoshop, because Capture One is limited in many regards, but one of them being you can't stitch panoramas together, you can't stitch RAWs together, and you can't HDR merge RAWs together either, so you need to use Lightroom or Photoshop or other options, which sometimes I do use to do that. For stitching a panorama together, I just use Photoshop myself. So before we start, I'm going to do some basic edits, because I like to do that now before I start to get too far down the process and realise, oh, I've lost too much information. I should have done this kind of overall global settings at the start before I then tweak details. First of all, there's an annoying spot on it. I think it's actually on the lens, because I keep looking. Now some of these you won't be able to notice it, it'll be a bit hidden. Yeah, I think there's an actual speck of dust within the lens elements that, you know, you can't get rid of. It's kind of stuck there, which is annoying. Oh, there is. No, this is where it gets a bit of a problem. This is where we need to do the heel brush instead, which worked brilliantly. There we go, there's the other one. Now we can go back to the dust one. No, again, I need to use the heel, which again worked very well. There's one in there. See, it was round. This is the really kind of boring part of the process. I think that's it there. I don't think that did anything. We'll leave that. I should have done these kind of basic touch-ups before we went through all this. There's another one. Is that another different type? Anyway, so this is going to be our brightest image. This is one that is taken nearest towards the sun, and then as we're working away from the sun, so these are the darkest here. So we kind of need to, well, they're all exposed the same. So when we join them together, there won't be any problems. But we kind of want to make our global adjustments now and apply them to all of them the same, so that when you stitch them together, there won't be any obvious differences. So, if anything, actually, I can stretch the dynamic range here. Get a bit of structure, a little bit of clarity. A touch of contrast. A touch of saturation, and then just bring back these a little bit. Okay, so now let's copy them and we can apply them to all these. So as we go through, yeah, they're all kind of nice. Now what I've done, I don't know if you noticed, I've colour coordinated these two different panoramas. I've got a blue one and then a pinky purple one there. So I could just click on that and it will only display these ones through this filter here. So really, I don't really feel a need to do too much more at this stage. The only thing that we might find we need to do is if there's vignettes, a natural vignette from the lens, then that will show up when we stitch them together. So one other thing I might do is just, now I don't, again, for the 100 to 400 Sigma lens, there's no lens correction. You can't choose that lens correction specifically. So anyway, let's copy and apply that to all of them again. So yeah, it's carried across. So just double check. Okay, so now let's grab all these, and I've already made this recipe in Capture One, so it's going to export a TIFF 16-bit uncompressed in Adobe RGB. Now the reason you want to export in these particular settings is because you're retaining as much data as possible, basically. With an Adobe RGB color space, it's bigger than the normal sRGB, so like that one there. Adobe RGB contains more colors, and at 16-bit rather than 8-bit, you'll really give in a lot of headroom, as it were, to how much data you'll be able to output in these TIFFs. Okay, so let's, one thing I normally do is I have this preset where it just pumps out these files into a specific document name, which is basically the name of this session, and then the recipe name, so export for HDR, and you'll see that when once they're processed. So let's process them out. Now they're processed it now, so we go into Photoshop, automate photo merge, and then we're doing, leave it on auto. Let's find them files. So there we can see that it's exported it, torque mounting, panorama export, and then we're just going to select all of them. Let's do all of that and see what happens. Well, that didn't work. Right. So there we go. That is our panoramic image. Now you might see these little fine lines. That's where it's stitched them together, but they won't actually show when we export it. But there we go, ladies and gentlemen. So what I like to do now is I will save this as a PSB, because we can come back to it later and adjust things, and then any changes we make will reappear in Capture One. So we're going to call this Talk Mountain Pano 1. It's probably going to be a massive file, this. .2 gigabytes. No, I'm gonna save it as a TIFF because that is way too big. No compression. Save it. There we go. That's a lot better. And let's take that. And I mean, I should have just saved it in the right place to begin with. And I'm going to paste it in there. Okay. So while it's doing that, let's edit the other bits. So now we have all this to work through. So let's just do some tidying up. So what I'm doing now, I've got A set up as a shortcut on the keyboard, so it sets the exposure automatically. So when it's a bit dark sometimes, It's just a quicker way of doing that. Now, what I have set up, this is the way I've been doing it. It's kind of in process thing, but I have some styles or presets, as you could call them, that I've created custom. Okay. So what I have here is 3 highlights, and I apply them depending on what exposure they're doing, and all they're doing is stretching the dynamic range of the raw file to get the most out of it. So this being mids, it just kind of brings up the shadows, brings down the highlights a little bit. This one for the shadows just brings up the exposure a little bit, and this one for the highlights just brings down. So all kind of similar. Oh, I got that right. That was definitely the mid. That was exposed for the highlights. So I got them around, and then that one's for the shadows. So we're really, the one with the shadows, we're really bringing out the shadows. The one for the highlights, we're really bringing down the highlights, and then we're kind of creating a balance in between. So let's do this all the way through. So that's a mid. That is highlights one. Then we got one for shadows. And as we go through, we're going to find extra things to clean up. Okay. Then this is mids again. Another spot there. That may or may not be instrumental. Actually, I'm gonna. Oh, didn't want to do that. Didn't want to delete my image. Right, okay. So that's mids. That is for highlights. And then shadows. And again, mids. Highlights. Shadows. Mids. Highlights. Shadows. Definitely a thing there. Mids. Highlights. Shadows. You can tell this is just quite a laborious process. Mids, highlights, shadows, mids, highlights, shadows. Okay, that should be it. So there we go. Now, I'm not going to get too in-depth with making any more adjustments because we need to now HDR all this. So let's do them for export. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to see how that's getting on. So in theory, I should be able to, where's capture one here? In theory now, that panoramic file should be in here somewhere. No? Did it save? There it is. So why isn't it showing up in here yet? Refresh it. Come on now. And what I can do is see what happens if I do this. It might be, well, it's 3 gig, that thing. And, this is where it gets a bit annoying. Could well be because it just doesn't like sure it does capture one PSB. Yeah, it's like a specific. Why can't I? Or maybe I need to do something. I need to flatten all this. Let's do this. Now it's 1. Okay. PNG, that's what I want. This is the fun and games that you have. So while that's saving now, what I can do, let's go back to output. I just need to delete them first ones I created, which will be them. I no longer need them. Now what I need to do in batches of 3, I use, instead of Photoshop or Lightroom to do the HDR merge, I use this software called Photomatix Essentials, and I just find it helps give a better kind of natural HDR look than what I get with Photoshop. And also when I downloaded this, which was last month, so what's that, April, it was free. Like the basic essential version was free instead of being about $30 or something. So let me just, here we go. This is it, Photomatix, download. Not the Pro, Essentials. I think it was this one here, but it was 3 for some reason when I downloaded it. So you might not be so fortunate. But anyway, no, you don't want to see that. We want that, and then so in batches of 3, it's going to be a bit tedious this, but import them 3 images, which are the same frame but at different exposures. Shouldn't need aligning because they're already aligned, but already can we see just kind of how natural that looks. So finish and save. Now, because I've stretched these files as maximum as possible, when we come to once we stitch them together, we can edit them as a whole, and we can really do what we want with them. Full size save. We want to save a TIFF, and let's just save this as Talk Mountain Pano 2 HDR, and save that one. Right, so on to the next 3. I've already played around with the settings how I like them, hence why I'm not doing anything more to it. So if you do use this, you can play around and you can really get quite extremes or more natural, depending what you like. Just gives you more flexibility than the normal Photoshop version. Okay, so another one done. 2, 3. Finish and save. Be interesting to see what this one looks like. There we go, look. So much information in there, apart from that glare of a sun. Now, because I've not got the Pro version, I don't have the opportunity to batch do all this, where I just drag everything in and it just spits out a finished image. Hence why I'm having to do it for every 3 exposures for each image. And I'm saving them in a separate folder just so I don't get confused with the original ones that I exported from Capture One. Now all that's doing it is this. We got. There we go. So there we go. That's our pano. Finally in Capture One. Final ones. Okay, so that is all done now. So let's go back into Photoshop. I can close that one. And again, let's automate photo merge, browse. We've got output these ones in here. Now I had a problem before, so I just selected these two, vignette removal and blend images together. When I did it before, it just basically stopped halfway through. Probably because there's so much data and information to crunch, it just couldn't be bothered. You know, sometimes it's a Monday morning and you turn up to work and you know you've got loads and loads of work and you're just like, you know what, I'm not even going to bother. I'm just going to sit here and watch YouTube. Well, anyway, while that's doing that, let's look at this. So, classic pano really, the maximum you want is a 3x1, which, like, we could make such a massive panorama out of that. But let's just select a certain bit. Hang on, we need to regenerate the view, I'm sure. There we go. Oh, so there's a thing. I think because it's such a massive file, it's really struggling. Yeah, that I thought that might be the case. Let's crop that out. Do this one slightly different this time. Just then if we look at that, there's a funny green tint in there. What we might be able to do here, let's see how. Just grab that lasso, delete it. Delete. Am I doing it wrong? Oh, I know why. Let's merge the layers. So if we do it now. No. This is the annoying thing when you know how to do something but you just can't quite do it. Feel content aware. I imagine it should do a pretty good job. Yep, that doesn't look crazy wrong. What we will do, let's just bring in the touch there and a touch there. That looks horrible, that colour. Well, let's save as anyway. got this annoying problem again. Oh, save as copy. See, for some reason that lets you do. Oh, I know why it looked awful. I bet I exported that other thing as a PNG. Not a PNG. I don't. I'm something's gonna go wrong, I know it. Right, let's well, at least it saved it. Flatten. Let's do this here and now. Okay, right. Let's save that. Save as. Let's save it as a TIFF. See if that. Now it's all flattened. It might make a difference. Really don't like that. Save as. 2. See if anything's turned up. The TIFF. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Let's get all this out of the way. So what we've created is a super wide pano, which is the kind of thing, if you got a massive conference room or like say a hotel around this area, you would have that like really printed large on the walls, which would look amazing. I might actually leave it like that. Do we want to do like... I think I like it like that. Super, super wide. You could make such a massive print out of that. Let's leave that like that. We could get into some murky depths. I don't want that. So that one now. This one is going to be the. Has to be a TIFF. There we go. I'm just going to try something. I wonder if it's just an issue with like white balance because it's so... Oh, come on now. So what I'm going to do is just well, we just like yellow in it, so do we want to? I think I'm going to start again with that one. So we'll skip forward here and I'll come back to you and tell you what I've done. Boom, there we go. So just to talk you through what I did, I ended up not HDR merging, though the ones from the second Panorama, I just chose, I think it was the middle exposure, because if we look at all the exposures on the histogram, they're all pretty good. I mean, this is going to be the brightest one, these two here, and they are clipping, but it's kind of not an unpleasant clipping, and then we move back out of that. So I'm kind of allowing that one. So we do we need to do any? It's lacking a bit of contrast, so I just want to add a bit of black in here. Kind of bringing that down. And I'm wondering if I want to use the curve to just add some extra contrast in, but it needs to be a bit more subtle. Oh, there's another thing there. Computer's struggling. There's another one. There's another one. This is the hard bit where you have to kind of find all them little spots and sort them. See, that doesn't. It's really struggling. Okay, let's do hill brush instead. Looks a bit better. Not as noticeable. Is that another one there? Or is that a tree? No, it is a. I feel like we need to. Do that again. I think that's the best that's going to be. See a sunspot there. There we go, there's another. The other way I could do it is just like this. Might be a bit easier. Could do a better job of that one, but I don't want to mess around too much. So there we go. A beautiful panorama. Actually, what I do want to do is I feel like these blues are a little bit washed out here. So what we can do is just pump them up a little bit. Without going crazy. And we could even add a bit of saturation into. I think it's just taking a bit of time. Shift that towards orange a bit more. There we go. Okay. A little edge of the lock there. Very nice. So, yeah, didn't have to HDR it in the end. We've captured enough dynamic range in this section to actually really make it work. I mean, it's definitely clipped, but there we go. Right. Wait for that to load. Come on, loady load. There we go. So there we go, our two panoramas. We eventually got there. This was a toughie. This I really like. Yeah. So, if you've bared through all of that, thank you so much. This week's current challenge is the panorama, as we've been looking. So, you can join in on the challenge with hashtag JDPano on Instagram. Put your picture on Instagram. Add a little context about why you took it, where you took it, if you learned anything from doing it. I mean, for me, I've learned that HDR panos are not easy to do, and amongst many other things, I'm sure, as I process what I've been doing on this week's photo challenge adventure. Next week, well, I don't know where we're going yet. Looking forward to it though. And what else? Anything else? Next week's Raw Wednesdays, we'll be looking at the macros. So, join that challenge from the previous week, where I was at the Cliffs of Moher and had to do a macro challenge, which was fun. And so it'd be good to see how you get on with the macro. Any other news? Waiting to hear back from DJI about my drone. I sent it off over a week ago, and really annoying. Like, went through the online return repair procedure. It's, gave me this form to print out, put in a box. And then the next day, went to the post office, sent it off, and the next afternoon I got an email saying, oh, here's your DHL, I think it is, free returns RMA postage thing. And I was like, oh, I've just spent silly money sending it back through the post office to Holland to get repaired. So that was really annoying, and nowhere did it say, oh, you can send it in for free. Wait for the email with the, you know, the postage and everything. So that was annoying. But anyway, that was a week ago. I sent that off, and it's just today arrived. So when I get it back and it's repaired, and hopefully I don't have to pay anything for it. I hope not. That would be annoying if I did. But yeah, hoping to have that back soon, because like when I've talked Mountain, there would have been amazing footage. So looking forward to playing around with the drone when it works and going to these amazing places. So thanks for watching. Catch me on Monday 7 PM for the next challenge, the next location. I don't know what it is, you'll find out, and we'll have some fun for sure. Anyway, good evening, have a good one, ciao for now, bye, see ya. Why are you still watching? Bye.